House will come back to order, and the chair recognizes Chairman Golick for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 941.
Chairman Golick has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 941. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 941 to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 15, Chapter 7 of Title 17, and Chapter 11 of Title 45, the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to juries, pretrial proceedings, and miscellaneous offenses concerning public officers and employees.
Chair recognizes Chairman Golick to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 941 is the reform bill that we passed earlier in the session unanimously, having to do with investigation by grand juries of potential police misconduct. The Senate substitute added two substantive provisions, both of which are positive, and I would ask you to accept. The first one reduced the number of grand jurors necessary to go ahead and initiate an investigation from 12 to 8, so it empowers fewer grand jurors to go ahead and initiate an investigation. That's a positive. The other provision that's significant and substantive is the fact that in a situation where, in a situation having to do with a court reporter and having a mandatory record, the Senate change mandated that in all situations, all investigations where a police officer was under investigation, that all situations would be taken down by a court reporter, and therefore there would be a written record. Those are the two provisions and changes. They're both strengthenings of the bill. I commend them to you, and I would ask for your favorable consideration. I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask the House to agree to the Senate substitute on 941.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 941, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Chair recognizes Representative Broderick for a motion. Wait just a minute, Representative. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. I got a lot of balls in the air up here right now. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 156, the nays are 0, and this House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 941. Chair recognizes Representative Broderick for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to HB 783.
Representative Broderick has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 783 as amended by this House. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 783 to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 13 to Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to controlled substances so as to change certain provisions relating to Schedules 1 and 4 controlled substances.
Mr. Speaker, if there's no questions, I'll yield the will.
Have you explained it?
Basically, in the review of the Senate substitute to 783, there are no substantial changes to the original bill that we sent over. which I believe passed 164 to 16 on February 18th. There are no substantial changes in the Senate substitute.
Do you yield for questions?
Yes, sir, I will.
Chair recognizes Representative Teasley to your right for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
If you'll recall, we had a conversation about the felony versus misdemeanor issue. Is that addressed in this motion?
It is.
That was in section 9, I think in the original bill, starting on line 320.
In the substitute on line 322, practitioner or other source shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. It's changed to misdemeanor
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. Mr. Speaker, if there are no further questions, I'll yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the adoption of the House amendment? The chair hears none, and the House amendment is adopted. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to... All right, the chair is going to withdraw with the concurrence of the author the amendment. What purpose does Chairman Knight rise?
Ms. Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that there are some other changes to this bill that we would like to have looked at or had some explanation on, particularly in the first part, regarding the cannabis oil and percentages?
Well, he's yielded the well.
Can we do it from the chair? Can we do it from the... Yeah.
Okay, the chair's going to postpone a vote on the bill and postpone consideration, and we'll have to come back to it if we have time. If you have questions, you need to see the author. All right, the House will come to order. This House will be at order. Chair recognizes for a morning order Chairman Barbara Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Wow, 10 years. Mr. Speaker, I think you told me I had an hour and a half. I think that's just about right. Seriously, in these 10 years, I've been allowed to meet people that I would have never have had the opportunity to meet before. I want to thank you for allowing me to become part of your lives. I have a heart now that is warmed by so many of you. The smiles and the warm greetings each morning that I receive, not only from the doorkeepers, but from my own assistants in my office. And over the 10 years, I've had the greatest people help me on this path. To you, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say thank you for trusting me and for allowing me to be your friend. I've been happy with every one of my committees, so I'd like to say thank you to those people that were committee chairs that I served under. And I'd like to thank those people who were members of my committee for putting up with me. I thank you for the kindness that you showed me. Speaker Pro Tem Jan Jones, thank you for your encouragement and your help to me over the last 10 years. I look at this body of legislators and I count each one of you a blessing. There are some of you, and you know who you are, that have adopted me into your lives and have woven a deep friendship that I will always cherish. I'm not going to say any names. There are too many of you. And I'm afraid I'll cry. And big girls don't cry. I know that. This is the time that I believe the Lord has chosen for me to go home, to be with my family. So I happily leave to be with my family, but I sadly leave you. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to offer a special blessing on you as you continue to lead this House and this great state of Georgia. Happy is the person who leaves here with these memories. God bless each and every one of you as you continue to be servant leaders. You have brought joy to my life, and I thank you. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Nimmer for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 952.
Representative Nimmer has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 952. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 952 being titled an act to amend Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to professions and businesses so as to enact the Georgia Professional Regulation Reform Act.
Chair recognizes Representative Nimmer to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, this is the measure I brought to you some weeks back, House Bill 952, related to giving us some oversight and a safety net in the state of Georgia dealing with our licensing boards. It left here in the Senate in their committee process, made a change to the designee that we had chosen, and I agreed to their change for the measure of moving forward and getting this bill passed. I think we'll be in good shape in the state of Georgia. We had passed out that the Secretary of State would be responsible and be the active supervision of the elected official to receive any appeals. The Senate amended and put in that the governor or his or her designee would be that person, and we left the language in on line 68 on page 3 that gave the 90-day time frame for the appeals to be, the decisions to be made and public notice be given. Mr. Speaker, that's the bill, that's the change. And I would ask that this House favorably consider and support the Senate substitute to House Bill 952.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the will.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 952, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 147, the nays are 17, and this House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 952.
chair recognizes Representative Tanner for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that this House agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 806.
The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 806 to be titled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to driver's licenses so as to provide for the expiration of certain licenses and identification cards issued by the Department of Driver Services.
The chair recognizes Representative Tanner to explain Senate's amendment.
Thank you. House Bill 806 left this chamber, passed, went to the Senate, and was unchanged in the Senate. There was a couple of other bills that had left this chamber and went to the Senate and did not make it out of rules. And through an amendment process on the Senate floor, those have been added into our House Bill 806. The two measures that have been added in is Representative Epps' bill dealing with Joshua's Law and the extension of that through June 30th, 2019, also transferring the responsibility of the Georgia Drivers Education Commission from the Department of Driver Services over to the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. All of that is exactly the way it passed the House of Representatives earlier in the session. The second piece of legislation that has been added to House Bill 806 is Representative Hitchens' legislation that he's carrying for the Department of Public Safety, and that allows the Commissioner to develop policies to allow our troopers to use off-duty vehicles in accordance with his rules and regulations. Madam Speaker, that's the changes, and I would ask for favorable consideration that this House now agree to that Senate amendment and we can move this bill to the Governor's office. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? There are questions.
All right, I'll be glad to yield.
On the gentleman's motion, there are questions. Will you yield to the question?
I will, yes, ma'am.
Recognize Representative Stevenson of the 90th. He waves. Representative Ernest Williams of the 87th. He waves. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 806, all those in favor, please vote yes. Those opposed, vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Okay, that's good. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? The clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, yeas are 165, nays are 1, and the resolution has passed. The House has agreed to the Senate amendment to House Bill 806. Sorry.
Give her a hand.
The chair recognizes Representative Taylor for a motion.
Did you call me up here? I move the House agree to Senate substitute to House Bill 884. Is that what he said?
844?
Yes, to House Bill 884.
The lady moves that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 884. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 884 to be titled an act to amend Chapter 56 and Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to risk-based capital levels so as to revise the definition of company action level event to include a health organization.
Chair recognizes Representative Taylor to explain the Senate substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the House. Happy sine die. This evening, I bring back to you House Bill 884, working from LC 372179 ERS. And I would ask that you disregard amendment that was put on your desk, AM 370309. This bill is a modernization bill for the Department of Insurance. It is now combining another insurance modernization bill, both of which passed this House unanimously. To briefly explain, I offer the following. The bill has to do with health organizations and the RBC risk-based capital calculations. It allows the Department of Insurance to maintain its NAIC accreditation. At my request, the Senate added an amendment, which is actually another House Bill, 882, that passed unanimously. If there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
There are no questions.
Thank you. I ask for your favorable consideration.
On the lady's motion for the House to agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 884, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the lady's motion, the yeas are 166, the nays are 0. The House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 884.
All right, we got more work to be done. Chair recognizes Representative Stovall for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House agrees to the Senate substitute for House Bill 614.
Representative Stovall moves that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 614. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 614 to be titled an act to amend Part 15 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to miscellaneous provisions under the Quality Basic Education Act.
Chair recognizes Representative Stovall to explain her motion.
The Senate substitute to 614, the Landon Johnson Act for video monitoring cameras in self-contained classrooms, was offered in the Senate Education and Youth Committee, and it addressed a minor issue regarding the length of time that the footage recording by the video cameras would be stored. If you go to line 27 of the substitute LC number 336-589S, and it was, we added in that the ending time would be for 12 months. So it's no less than 3 months, no more than 12 months. And previously, this bill passed by this body 158-6 and passed the Senate 48-1. Let's make history tonight by making Georgia the second state to allow cameras in its classrooms of special education classrooms. Mr. Speaker, I yield the will and ask for your favorable consideration for the Senate substitute for HB 614.
On the lady's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 614, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the lady's motion, the ayes are 165, the nays are 1. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 614. Chair recognizes Representative Chandler for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute of HB 798.
Representative Chandler has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 798, and the clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 798 to be titled an act to amend Part 7 of Article 7, Chapter 3, and Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to Hope scholarships and grants.
Chair recognizes Representative Chandler to explain the Senate substitute.
This has one very simple change, and that is in talking about the Zell and the Hope for eligible students, we're using a number score rather than a percentile score. And that's it. And I'm sure there are no questions. So
there are no questions.
Thank you.
On the lady's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 798, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine.
gets all crazy, that was very neat.
Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the lady's motion, the ayes are 162, the nays are 6. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 798. Chair recognizes Representative Broderick again for a motion. The new rehabilitated motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will restate my initial motion. I move that this House accept the Senate substitute to HB 783.
Okay. You can step out. There you go. Representative Broderick moves that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 783. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 783 to be titled an act to amend Chapter 13 and Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to controlled substances so as to change certain provisions relating to Schedules 1 and 4 controlled substances.
Chair recognizes Representative Broderick to explain the Senate substitute.
The Senate substitute does not substantially change the original bill that we sent to them. That was voted out of this House almost unanimously. There is one section that has some clear definition, and it says, as used in this article, low THC oil means an oil that contains an amount of cannabidiol and not more than 5% by weight. It establishes the maximum amount of THC in the definition of low THC oil. If there are any questions, Mr. Speaker, I'll be glad to.
You do have questions.
Okay.
Do you yield?
I yield, yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Golick to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Representative, thank you for yielding. Just to be clear, the language that you described regarding the 5% THC oil, this reflects the intent of the House through the House Committee Chair Non-Civil when we clarify the percentage throughout the code, and in fact there had been a gap, and is a gap currently on that particular percentage. The language here reflects the intent of the House originally, that we will limit that to no more than 5% throughout the code as it's used. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Thank you very much.
You have another question if you care to yield.
I'll be glad to yield, Mr.
Chair
Speaker.
recognizes Representative Pete to your right for a question.
Certainly.
Gentleman yield?
Yes.
Yeah, just to, is it not true, just to clarify even what Chairman Golick said, that language is the exact language that was in HB 722 and SB 145 that we voted on earlier, that is the correct language for what low THC oil should be. Is it not true?
That is true.
Thank you very much.
No further questions.
Okay, I'll yield the well. I appreciate
On the
it.
gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 783. All those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 167, the nays are 4. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 783. We don't often stop enough and thank people who help us make this place go. And we have the best support of any legislative body anywhere in this country. I want you to help me thank a few groups tonight, and I want to begin with the House Budget and Research Office. Director Martha Wigdon, Deputy Director Christine Murdoch, and the Research and Budget Office staff. The IT department under Director Gordy Rivers and his staff. The reapportionment office under Director Gina Wright and her staff. The anteroom staff, Angela Holland and her assistant, Jeff Lawrence. Angela, take a bow. Can't find her, okay. The post office, Director Phil Tucker and his staff. They couldn't be here tonight because guess what? They're still working. But let's give a big shout out to the Office of Legislative Counsel, Director Wayne Allen and his staff. All of our administrative assistants and staff. The temporary session staff. The House interns and aides. And the GBI and the Capitol Police. And the members of the Georgia State Patrol who are here taking care of us every day. Our chamber technology expert, except 2 or 3 times today, Brent Cranfield. The Page program staff, Debbie Lynn, Elaine Myers, Helen Kelly, and Debbie Bryant. Phil Tucker and all of the doorkeepers. And we have the best house photographers anywhere in the world, Anna Watkins and Sarah Harper. And a young lady who keeps me on track up here, please give a big round of applause to the House Messenger, Betsy Lynch. He won't crawl over the desk like we had in another day. But we have an outstanding clerk's office led by our clerk of the House, Bill Riley. And his assistant clerk, Crystal Roche. The clerk staff working on the floor of the House, Belle Doss, Scotty Long, Terry Vick, Ryan Keene, Rashad Richardson, and Jovan Page. Give them a big hand. Y'all have heard me say many times, I'm not much of a speaker, but I know how to surround myself with good people. And I love every one of them. Speaker's office staff, Diane Harden, Alicia Johnson, Holly Gibbs, Spiro Lambert, Caleb McMicken, Terry Chastain, Got a lot of emails about him this year. They spelled his name right, too, by the way. Our interns this session, Andrew Roberts and Katie Clinton. Our legal extern, Laura Beth Jackson. And two guys that I spend way too much time with, Corporal Vince Mooney with the State Patrol and Trooper Shannon Carroll. Thank all of you for all you do for us. All right, back to work now.
He's ready to make a motion.
We have a local supplemental calendar. A local supplemental calendar. If there is no objection, we will vote on the local supplemental calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing none, it is so ordered. The clerk will read the local supplemental calendar.
House Bill 658 by Senate Committee, substitute by Representative Mitchell of the 88th DeKalb County. House Bill 1115 by Senate Committee, substitute by Representative Henson of the 86th DeKalb County. Senate Bill 423 by Senate Amendment to House substitute by Senator Jeffries of the 17th Newton County. Completes the reading of the local calendar.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? The chair hears none. Previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the local calendar, on the passage of the bills on the local calendar, the ayes are 166, the nays are 0. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. Chair recognizes Representative Valerie Clark for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I move that the House agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 362 as amended by the House.
Chair Representative Clark has moved that the House agree to the Senate amendment as amended by the House to House Bill 362. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 362 to be entitled an act to amend Part 3 of Article 16 of Chapter 2 of Title 20, Division Code of Georgia annotated relating to student health in elementary and secondary education.
Chair recognizes Representative Clark to explain her motion.
Mr. Speaker, again, thank you. This action removes the underlying bill and adds House Bill 588 that overwhelmingly passed in this House and overwhelmingly also passed in the Senate. And the bill was, as you might remember, is a blocking system for pseudoephedrine. It's found in our cold and allergy medications, and you can purchase the same amount as you could before, and this is asked for by our pharmacists. And if there are no questions, Mr. Speaker, I yield the well. And I ask for your favorable consideration.
You have no questions.
Thank you, sir.
On the lady's motion that the House agree to the Senate amendment as amended by the House to House Bill 362, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage, or on the lady's motion, the ayes are 143, the nays are 14. This House has agreed to the Senate amendment to House Bill 362 as amended by this House. Chair recognizes Representative Kelly for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 960 as amended by this House.
Representative Kelly has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 960 as amended by this House. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 960 be titled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to state administration and collection of revenue so as to provide for confidentiality of certain tax information.
Chair recognizes Representative Kelly to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. There's a couple changes that the Senate made that were technical in nature that I'll point out first on line 81. They added that when there's a refund claim of local significance, that each of the political subdivisions of which it's affected will be notified if it is only their political subdivision. That change was really a cleanup on just line 81. Then on 142, the way we had the penalties split up, we had allowed up to 20% penalties for delinquent property taxes spread over 2 years. What we've changed to in this bill would spread those penalties over a year and 4 months. And then on the other change that took place here is that we said that now that cities and counties can negotiate with each other to get the pro rata share that's due to them for the delinquent property tax penalties that are owed, so that they can now have the opportunity for the cities to get their delinquent property tax fees. Mr. Speaker, that's the changes. I'll be glad to answer any questions if there are any. Y'all are pretty.
You have a question if you care to yield.
I'll yield.
Chair recognizes Chairman Benton to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman will yield.
I'll yield.
The amendment that you're asking us to approve, is that going to be helpful or hurtful to the school systems?
It's neutral to our school systems, Mr. Chairman, because it leaves the collection the same way that it is today.
So we'd have to approve the amendment to leave it the same or to vote against the amendment to leave it the same?
To leave it the same as it is today, that when a property tax that's delinquent, the penalty that's assessed on that today, that stays in the county's hands under current law. The amendment that you have before still leaves that under current law.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions.
I'll yield the well and ask your favorable consideration.
On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 960 as amended by the House. All those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 142, the nays are 19. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 960 as amended by this House. Chair recognizes Representative Harrell for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I move that we agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 936 as amended by this House.
Representative Harrell has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 936 as amended by this House. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 936 to be titled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating the imposition rate computation exemptions from income taxes.
Chair recognizes Representative Harrell to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, we're looking at AM 340740. This measure includes the original House Bill 936, which clarifies the definition of job tax credit, passes body 166-0. It removes a provision added in the Senate with regard to a tax exemption for the Georgia State Defense Force, and it includes in Section 3 House Bill 828 by Representative Virgil Flood that passes body 153-16 that provided a job tax credit for employers that employ probationers and those released from our prison system. That is the bill. I ask for your favorable consideration. I'd be glad to answer a question.
You've got a couple of questions.
Yes, sir. I'll yield.
Chair recognizes Chairman Setzler to your right for a question.
Does gentleman yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Very quick question. Are you sure you've got time to send this back across the Capitol and get this done?
We're going to do the best we can. Yes, sir.
Do you further yield?
Yes, I do.
Chair recognizes Chairman Martin to your right for a question.
Gentleman yield for a question.
I do, yes, sir.
I apologize. In this pile of paper, I cannot put my hands on the amendment. Representative Harold, can you tell me, there was a rumor that the Senate had put something on this relative to a project here in town?
No, sir. That's a different bill. No, sir, not this bill.
Okay, so that's not part of it. I'm sorry to ask, but I could not find the amendment. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I yield the will, and I ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 936.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 936 as amended by this House. All those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, The ayes are 158, the nays are 7. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 936 as amended by this House. Chair recognizes Representative Harrell for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 937 as amended by this House.
Representative Harrell has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 937 as amended by this House. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 937 to be titled an act to amend Code Section 48-8-3, the official code of Georgia annotated, relating the exemptions from the state sales and use tax.
Chair recognizes Representative Harrell to present his or explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, House Bill 937, as it left this body, simply extended a sunset for 3 years on projects of regional significance. That's what our Department of Economic Development uses to attract major business and investment in this state. The Senate added a rather large additional project to the bill and an additional tax incentive for development. This amendment removes that incentive in its entirety from the bill, and what it does is it extends an existing tax on rental cars that was set to expire in a couple of years, extends that sunset from 2038, which is the existing time, to 2047. So this bill now includes 2 sunset extensions and nothing more, a 3-year extension on projects of regional significance, and the extension on existing rental car tax from 38 to 47. I would be glad to answer any questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I'd ask for your favorable consideration.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 937 as amended by this House, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. What purpose does Chairman Earhart rise? Gentleman has that right. Journal will so reflect. We're voting green if you're voting in favor of the gentleman's motion, and red if you're in opposition. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 131, the nays are 27, and this House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 937 as amended by this House. Chair recognizes Chairman Rice for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House recede from its position and adopt the Conference Committee report on House Bill 205.
Chairman Rice has moved that the House adopt the Committee of Conference report on House Bill 205. The clerk will read the conference committee report.
Committees on conference on HB 205 recommend that both the Senate and the House of Representatives recede from their positions and that the attached committees of conference substitute to HB 205 be adopted.
Chair recognizes Chairman Rice to explain the Committee of Conference report on House Bill 205.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 205 passed out of this House 168-4. The Senate, in conference with the Prosecuting Attorney's Council and solicitors, worked the bill along with our side, and they made some changes to conform the bill to the Governor's Criminal Justice Reform Act. The major changes that they made were having to do with those who are eligible for the device. This is an optional device, option of the person who's accused of the DUI to get an interlock device. They can either get it for 4 months or 12 months, and the changes, Mr. Speaker, are minimal. Stand for questions.
You have a couple of questions if you care to yield.
I yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Kendrick to your left for a question. She waves.
No.
Do you still yield?
Sure.
Chair recognizes Representative Kidd to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman, you.
Yes.
How does this, two questions. How does this affect the 17-year-old?
Doesn't apply to anybody under 21.
That's what I thought. Thank you, sir. Second question. If someone has gotten a DUI that's over 21 and he has no other points whatsoever for 5 years, is this his record expunged any, or is that DUI stay on his record for the rest of his life?
No, it's whatever. It's the current law. So we made no changes to the law with regard to that.
So it still stays on his record forever. Thank you, sir.
I yield the well, Mr. Speaker, and ask
No
for your
further questions. On the adoption of the conference committee report on House Bill 205, all those in favor of the adoption of the conference committee report will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the adoption of the conference committee report on House Bill 205, the ayes are 160, the nays are 6, and the committee of conference report is adopted. Chair recognizes Representative Fleming for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House agree to the conference committee report on Senate Bill 199.
Representative Fleming has moved that this House adopt the committee of conference report on House Bill 199. Clerk will read the caption.
Committees of conference on Senate Bill 199 recommend that both the Senate and the House of Representatives recede from their positions at the House and that the attached committees of conference substitute to SB 199 be adopted.
Chair recognizes Representative Fleming to explain the committee of conference report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, Senate Bill 199 Conference Committee report is a collection of various election bills and campaign bills that have come through this section, as well as some requests from the Transparency Commission for some clarifications in that law. Let me start by going through section by section and explain that to you. Section 1 of the bill is Senator Jeffries' original bill, Senate Bill 199, that deals with the issue that Representative Gravely has passed through this House, overwhelmingly dealing with what you can bring into the voting precinct as far as campaign material is concerned. Section 5 and Section 1 are just a restatement of that bill, which we have already passed. Section 2 is House Bill 980, which is passed this House unanimously. Alan Powell's bill dealing with reopening qualifying in municipal elections if no one qualifies. So the law currently would require a special election, much more less expensive for our local governments to just have another qualifying date. So hopefully somebody will come qualify for the election. Section 3 on page 2 deals with a slight change in the moving of the qualifying week for municipal elections so that there's time to prepare the ballots for early voting. That's on line 65 of the bill. You can see right there it changes from the last Monday to the third Monday in August, just moving it up 1 week. Section 4 of the bill, this is Representative Heath Clark's House Bill 772, which passed this House unanimously. That is the problem we had in the elections law, where it's possible to have Saturday voting on right near July the 4th or on a July the 4th weekend. That bill is right there in Section 4. Section 5 of the bill, as I mentioned earlier, is also part of the earlier definition section for what you can bring into the voting area as far as campaign materials, which passed the House overwhelmingly. Section 6 is a request from the Ethics Commission to strengthen the laws regarding any violations of the law dealing with campaign law. Currently, if you violate a campaign law in Georgia, you have committed a misdemeanor. The Ethics Commission was concerned that what if it was a very serious offense like embezzlement or bribery to get someone to vote? Those things are felonies under Georgia law. So in that Section 6, we're making clear that just because the campaign finance law says that it's a misdemeanor for violations of it, it doesn't exempt you from a felony charge for something very serious such as bribery. Section 7 of the bill is another request from the Transparency Commission regarding the filing dates for local officials and their campaign reports. As y'all remember, we moved our filing as state legislators not from December 31st, but to the end of January, so that anything that occurred before the session in January would be captured. So that made a problem with the local officials, and this just clarifies that they still do file on December the 31st. Section 8 of the bill deals with a clarification of what we have to file on our business transaction report and what we have to file on our personal disclosure report. As you know, the business transaction report deals with any business you have with the legislator with the state of Georgia. There was some confusion about what belongs on the personal disclosure report, what belongs on the business transaction report, and that's what Section 8 clarifies there. Also in Section 8, on line 139, there's a clarification as the distinction between state and local governments. That is interchangeably used throughout our elections and our campaign transparency laws, and that simply clarifies which is which. Section 9 of the bill is a request that we worked with the Senate on. As you know, we passed in this House recently, a couple of years back, the fact that there's a $75 limit on a lobbyist expenditure for you, if, for example, if there was a dinner held. Also, that is a clarification that only applies to one person. The last part of this is a Senate request in Section 10, which clarifies that a local government employee is not a lobbyist if they come here to the Capitol, or they are lobbyists if they come here to the Capitol to work on legislation. Section 11 of the bill deals with the fact if we call a state employee over to testify in front of a hearing that they are not a lobbyist. Section 12 finally is Katie Dempson's bill, which says that local governments control their residency requirements as long as they don't violate state law. Ms. Speaker, that is an explanation of every part of the bill, and I would be happy to answer any questions. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are you yielding the well?
Yes, sir, I'm yielding the well.
On the adoption of the Conference Committee report on House Bill 199, or Senate Bill 199, all those in favor of the adoption of the Conference Committee report will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the adoption of the Conference Committee report on Senate Bill 199. The ayes are 168, the nays are 0. This bill, the Conference Committee report, having received the requisite majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes the Speaker Pro Tem for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 885.
Speaker Pro Tem, this House has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 885. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 885 to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 and Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to county boards of health so as to repeal the statute relating to the option for certain counties to create a county board of health and wellness by ordinance.
Chair recognizes the Speaker Pro Tem to explain her motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the public health bill that was brought by Brenda Fitzgerald, the Department of Public Health, that repeals a population bill. We changed one date to accommodate a request by the County Commission and some of the members of this House. I'd ask for your favorable consideration. I yield the well.
On the lady's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 885, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the lady's motion. The ayes are 161. The nays are 0. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 885. Chair recognizes Representative Ballinger for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House agree to the Senate substitute to HB 905.
Representative Ballinger has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 905. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 905 to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-11-710, Title 19 and Chapter 5 of Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the exchange of information to domestic relations and programs and protection for children and youth.
Chair recognizes Representative Ballinger to explain her motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over in the Senate, 905 became a Christmas tree in a good sense because we added a House ornament to it, Chairman Welch. House Bill 915, which passed the Health and Human Services but unfortunately got hung up in rules, was also added to 905. It creates a Child Welfare Agency scorecard and consolidates some of the inspections that go on for child welfare agencies. I'd be happy to yield to any questions. Also, Carl Rogers, your addition of the local school board inclusion and striking of the county school boards was also added on line 235.
Questions?
Thank you. I ask for your favorable consideration.
On the lady's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 905, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the lady's motion. The ayes are 160, the nays are 0. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 905. Chair recognizes Representative Perkle for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Conference Committee report for House Bill 876.
Representative Perkle has moved that the House adopt the Committee of Conference report on House Bill 876. The clerk will read the caption.
Committee of Conference on House Bill 876 recommend that both the Senate and the House of Representatives recede from their positions, that the House Committees of Conference substitute to HB 876 be adopted.
Chair recognizes Representative Perkle to explain the Committee of Conference report for House Bill 876.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There was one change. The livestock market operator license was changed from annual maturity to 3 years, and there was a new section added that would include livestock activities in an existing statutory framework which extends protections which we presently have for equine to include cattle, sheep, goats, and swine. This portion of the bill will strengthen our 4-H and FFA clubs by encouraging more youth participation. The Conference Committee report included a language that was for not-for-profit event for the cattle and swine. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Do you yield for questions?
Yes, sir, I will yield for one.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee, Chairman McCall, for a question.
Chairman yield.
Yes, sir, I will.
Is it not true that the underlying bill is very much needed to help protect our livestock markets and thus the cattle industry in this state?
Yes, sir, that is very true.
Will you yield further?
Yes, sir, I will.
Is it also not true the language that the Senate added will help tremendously the 4-H and FFA programs in this state and help protect the agriculture producers that volunteer their services and their farms for these programs, and they don't get one red nickel out of it?
That is correct. Yes, sir, you are exactly correct. Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
On the adoption of the Conference Committee report on House Bill 876, all those in favor of the adoption of the Conference Committee report will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of the Conference Committee report on House Bill 876, the ayes are 145. The nays are 20. And the Committee of Conference Committee report is adopted. Chair recognizes Representative Darlene Taylor for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 883.
Representative Taylor moves that the House agree to the Senate amendments to House Bill 883. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 883 to be titled an act to amend Chapter 37 and Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to insurers, rehabilitation, and liquidation, so as to change certain provisions relating to insurers, rehabilitation, and liquidation.
Chair recognizes Representative Taylor to explain her motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, I bring you House Bill 883. It's another insurance modernization bill that passed this body unanimously. It affects certain statutory deposits for foreign and alien carriers and what they're required to make in the case of insolvency. These will affect the citizens of Georgia that have had difficulties with claim settlements with these non-domiciled carriers with certain reciprocal agreements. The Senate amendment was a friendly amendment that added another Insurance Department bill, 975, which again, both of these previously passed the House unanimously. If there are no questions, I'll ask for your favorable consideration.
You have no questions. The lady has yielded the well on the lady's motion that this House agree to the Senate amendments to House Bill 883. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the lady's motion, the ayes are 163, the nays are 0, and this House has agreed to the Senate amendments to House Bill 883. Chair recognizes Chairman Weldon for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I move we adopt the Committee of Conference report for Senate Bill 64.
Chairman Weldon has moved that this House adopt the Committee of Conference report on Senate Bill 64. The clerk will read the Conference Committee report.
Committees of Conference on Senate Bill 64 recommended that both the Senate and the House of Representatives recede from their positions that the attached committee and conference substitute to Senate Bill 64 be adopted.
Chair recognizes Chairman Weldon to explain his motion.
This bill just abolishes the administrative legitimation and preserves the bill as we voted out the first time. Thank you. I yield the will.
On the adoption of the Conference Committee report on Senate Bill 64, all those in favor of the adoption of the Conference Committee report will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of the Conference Committee report on Senate Bill 64, the ayes are 158, the nays are 4, and this House has adopted the Conference Committee report. Chair recognizes Chairman Willard for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we accept the Senate's substitute for House Bill 408.
Chairman Willard has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 408. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 408 to be titled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 13, Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to excise tax on rooms, lodging, and accommodations.
Chair recognizes Chairman Willard to explain his motion.
The bill only applies to the motel and motel tax as to Sandy Springs and Johns Creek. And the only thing that was changed, this bill passed last year, and the only thing that's changed is the date, because it would be effective last year, July 1st, 2015. They had to change the date on line 103 to July 1, 2016, and that's the only change. I ask for your support. Thank you.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 408, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 121, the nays are 34, and this House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 408. All right, I need you to listen up. We have been advised by Legislative Council, and we have been conferring with the Senate, that it is not required that we finish by midnight. Now, I know that don't come as good news. We got a little bit more business, so we're going to go past midnight. So I'm going to ask that the preparations cease for momentarily, because we got the people sent us here to do some work, and we're going to finish that work, and I'll give you a little heads up in time for you to get the confetti ready, okay? Trust me, I'm as ready. No, I am readier than y'all are. Now that I've rained on your parade, Chair recognizes Chairman Knight for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to make a motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 862.
Chairman Knight has moved that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 862. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 862 be titled an act to amend Code Section 48-5-4080 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating the homestead exemption for disabled veterans.
I'm waiting for you to put me back in.
Chair recognizes Chairman Knight to explain his motion.
Members, if you'll remember, we were correcting some language that had to deal with our disabled veterans, the and to the or, dealing with making sure we put it back to the or so that our veterans could qualify without having to lose a limb or appendix. We got over to the Senate, and Department of Revenue also pointed out that we had sections in the for the disabled veterans for the license plate and for the ad valorem tax. So what we did in the Senate is we made sure that all three definitions or provisions were the same. So you'll see the changes in Section 3 and in Section 1. They're both referring back to Title 48, 548, so that we're all, on all three sections, have the same definition, the same correction. I appreciate your favorable consideration.
On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 862, all those in favor of the motion will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines.
How are we going to be here, Mr. Clerk? I would say midnight, but now we'll be done sometime tomorrow.
Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion. The ayes are 166, the nays are 0, and this House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 862. Chair recognizes Chairman Willard for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House amend the Senate substitute to House Bill 808. And agree.
Your motion is that we agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 808 as amended by this House. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 808 to be titled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 15, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions relative to courts so as to create a new Judicial Qualifications Commission.
Chair recognizes Chairman Willard to explain his motion.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the bill is one that's been much negotiations back and forth. We've got a bill. This is the implementing bill for the Judicial Qualification Commission. You recall we passed a constitutional amendment. This is a bill that will implement that law when the constitutional amendment is adopted by the people this November. The purpose of it is to set up the means of selection of the members to serve on the commission. There will still be 7 members. One will be selected by the governor, and one will be selected by the Speaker of the House. One will be selected by the President of the Senate. There's also 2 lay individuals selected by the governor, and also the 2 to be selected by the Supreme Court. It also provides for certain standards and rules to be administered as far as the handling of complaints. We would ask for your favorable support, and Mr. Speaker, if there's no questions, I will yield the will and ask the House approval of House Bill 808. Thank you.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree, first of all, is there any objection to the adoption of the House amendment? Chair hears none, and the House amendment is adopted. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 808 as amended by this House, all those in favor will vote aye, those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 127, the nays are 32. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 808 as amended by this House. Chair recognizes Chairman Battles for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask that the House would adopt the Committee of Conference report on House Bill 727.
Chairman Battles moves that this House adopt the Committee of Conference report on House Bill 727. The clerk will read the caption.
Committee of Conference on House Bill 727 recommend that both Senate and the House of Representatives recede from their positions that the attached Committee of Conference substitute to HB 727 be adopted.
Chair recognizes Chairman Battles to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What we did in the conference was to satisfy a couple of things that was unclear. and also to replace some things that needed to be changed. The only thing really has been done is on the fees, that those permanent consumer fireworks retail sales are going from $5,000 to $1,500 per location, and that is if they have paid the initial fee of $5,000. That's the only change. Then on the temporary fireworks sales locations where it is dedicated to nonprofits, they're allowing those nonprofit dollars to be given to that particular nonprofit 501c3, and they would in fact would man that location. The other is that they have agreed that we will the time will be cut back to from 10 to 9 each day for the fireworks, and then from 9 to 11:59 it will be under local control so as to the noise ordinance. The only other thing that is part of this of this legislation is that we did agree to allow HB 970, which was Representative Lundstrom's bill that passed here, and this is an important bill that has to do with the Georgia law that of new hires for criminal background checks. And so we've already passed that here, and we're adding it to this. So that's the changes. Have any questions? None. I use the will.
You had no questions on the adoption of the Conference Committee report on House Bill 727. All those in favor of the Conference Committee report will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the adoption of the Conference Committee report on House Bill 727. The ayes are 148, the nays are 17, and the Committee of Conference report is adopted. Chair recognizes Representative Holcomb for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to Senate Bill 304.
Representative Holcomb moves that the House agree to the Senate substitute to Senate Bill 304, and the clerk will read the caption.
Senate Bill 304 to be titled an act to amend Code Section 35-3-34 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to disclosure and dissemination of criminal records of private persons and businesses.
Chair recognizes Representative Holcomb to explain his motion on the rape kit bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the legislation to ensure the timely processing of rape kits in the state of Georgia. We are good. Please vote yes. Thank you.
On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to Senate Bill 304, all those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 167, the nays are 0. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to Senate Bill 304. Chair recognizes Representative Duncan for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to make...
If you want to help rural health care in Georgia, you might want to listen up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to make a motion that this body adopt our conference committee report for Senate Bill 258.
Representative Duncan has moved that this House adopt the Committee of Conference report on Senate Bill 258. Clerk will read the caption.
Committees on Conference on Senate Bill 258 recommend that both the Senate and the House of Representatives recede from their positions that the attached committees of conference substitute to Senate Bill 258 be adopted.
Chair recognizes Representative Duncan to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The hour is late, and I will be brief. I can report to this body two things. Tomorrow morning, when Georgia wakes up, we will be leading the national conversation on rural health care reform, and the folks in rural Georgia will have a renewed hope for the rural health care system. I ask for your favorable support.
On the adoption of the conference committee report on Senate Bill 258, all those in favor of the adoption of the conference committee report will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of the conference committee report, the ayes are 163. The ayes are 163, the nays are 0. The committee of conference report is adopted. Going back to the rules calendar, clerk will read the caption to Senate Bill 355.
Senate Bill 355 by Senator Ligon of the 3rd, McCoon of the 29th, Hill of the 6th, Williams the 27th, Martin of the 9th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to elementary and secondary education so as to enable the Student Teacher Protection Act.
Chair recognizes Representative Chandler to present the bill.
I think I'm not sure I have enough sense to present it, but let me tell you, it is a good bill. It will protect our students.
You have no questions.
And I have no questions, and I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee. There was an amendment. There was an amendment. It is Amendment AM 33. The amendment has been withdrawn. There is not an amendment. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 355 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of Senate Bill 355. The ayes are 162, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1577.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let the clerk read the caption.
House Resolution 1577 by Representative Thomas, the 56th, creating the House Study Committee on Georgia Minority Participation in the Film and Television Production Industry. This resolution has been referred to the Committee on Special Rules. The committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Chair recognizes Representative Thomas to present the resolution.
This resolution creates the House Study Committee on Georgia Minority Participation in the Film and Television Production Industry. Thank you for your favorable support. I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of House Resolution 1577, the ayes are 123, the nays are 33, and the resolution has been adopted. Chair recognizes Representative Bruce for a motion.
I move that we accept the Senate substitute for House Bill 514.
Representative Bruce has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 514. Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 514 by Representative Bruce, the 61st, Flood of the 64th, Kaiser the 59th, and others to be entitled an act to incorporate the city of South Fulton in Fulton County. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs. The committee recommends this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Bruce to explain the Senate substitute.
This is the bill that we passed out last session. It changes the dates to bring it up to date. I ask for your favorable vote. Thank you. I yield the will.
On the gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 514. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 127, the nays are 25. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 514. Clerk will Clerk will read the caption to Senate Resolution 883.
Senate Resolution 883 by Senator Beach the 21st, Thompson the 14th, Gooch the 51st, Jones the 22nd, Parent the 42nd, and others, creating a joint study committee on industry incentives for financial technologies and the payment processing industry. This resolution having been referred to the Committee on Special Rules. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Chair recognizes Representative Turner to explain the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a joint study committee to look at the financial transaction industry, which currently has 40,000 jobs here in Georgia. We just want to make sure that the current laws are meeting the need to protect that industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the adoption of Senate Resolution 883. The ayes are 146, the nays are 4. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Chairman Weldon for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I move we agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 212 as amended by the House.
Chairman Weldon has moved that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 212 as amended by this House. Clerk will read the resolution.
House Bill number 212 to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 43-34-283, the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to the licensure requirements for pain management clinics.
Chair recognizes Chairman Weldon to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this bill as amended just puts CRNAs and advanced practice nurses and physician assistants on the same standing with respect to the Pain Management Clinic Act. I yield the will.
On the gentleman's motion. Gentleman's motion that this House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 212 as amended by this House. All those in favor of the motion will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 118, the nays are 31. This House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 212 as amended by this House. Chair recognizes Representative Atwood for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I move that the House proceed from this position on the Senate substitute to House Bill 736 as amended by the House.
Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 736 be titled an act to amend Code Section 40-2-86 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to special license plates promoting certain beneficial projects.
Chair recognizes Representative Atwood to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This essentially puts us back in the same posture before we amended Chairman Powell's bill, the old House Bill 499. That's taken off, and we're simply agreeing to 2 additional tags that were added to our consolidated tag bill. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the will.
On the gentleman's motion that this House recede from its position on House Bill 736, is there objection? Chair hears none, and the House has receded from its position on House Bill 736. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1605. Okay, the chair's advised we need to do yeas and nays on the previous motion. All those in favor of the gentleman's motion to recede on House Bill 736 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the gentleman's motion, the ayes are 151, the nays are 2. The House has receded. Chair recognizes Chairman clerk will read the caption again to House Resolution 1605.
House Resolution 1605 by Representative Martin of the 49th and others, creating the House Study Committee on Regional Transit Solutions.
Chair recognizes Chairman Martin to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this is House Resolution 1605. It creates a House Study Committee for Regional Transit Solutions to work with our partners across the hall. The companion resolution to the Senate asks the House's favorable consideration so we can plan for the Metro Atlanta's future. I'll yield the well, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All those in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the adoption of House Resolution 1605, the ayes are 149, the nays are 9. This resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. What purpose does Chairman Wilkinson rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that the Senate agreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 168, making any adoptable dog the official dog of the state of Georgia?
I knew they would see the wisdom in the House action. The chair recognizes Representative Strickland for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House adopt the Committees of Conference report on House Bill 904.
Now, the posture we're in, there are two. All right, y'all listen up now. There are two conference committee reports on House Bill 904. The motion to adopt is as to the second one because the chair is going to withdraw the first one because I think this state has, we need to move forward, not backward. And this House is not going to be a party to taking Georgia back. Clerk will read the caption to the second conference committee report on House Bill 904.
Committee of Conference report on HB 904 LC 36-309 6S. Committees on Conference on HB 904 recommend that both the Senate and the House of Representatives recede from their positions that the attached Committee of Conference substitute to House Bill 904 be adopted.
Chair recognizes Representative Strickland to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to be clear, we're on LC 36-3096S. This brings us back to my original Department of Labor bills, House Bills 903, 904. All of y'all voted yes on those a few weeks ago. I'd like to thank the Speaker for making sure that we got this right. And with that, I will yield the will.
On the adoption of the second conference committee report on House Bill 904, LC 36-30965, all those in favor of the adoption of the conference committee report will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted?
Yeah, just stand right there.
If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the adoption of the conference committee report on House Bill 904. The ayes are 159, the nays are 0. The committee of conference report on House Bill 904 has been adopted.
When y'all move around, just don't.
Okay. House will come to order. We have a number of pages that have been here now longer than any pages I can ever remember being here. Please give them a hand as they come in. The Sergeant at Arms has asked me to remind you that you need to clean out your desk tonight. Whatever you leave is his. So I think they're passing out some containers for you to use for that purpose. At the clerk's office says to leave your voting cards on your desk. In your desk, I'm sorry. Okay, you get the confetti ready. We're waiting on one more measure to be completed on the other side. I understand it's going to be seconds away, but the chair wants to thank each member of this body with all that is within me for a truly good session. I appreciate your hard work. I appreciate your commitment to the people of Georgia. And most of all, I appreciate your friendship. Godspeed to all of you. Safe travels. I love you. And we're going to adjourn here momentarily. You know, we forgot to recognize the press corps back there earlier. I don't hear anybody clapping much. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader of the House for a motion. You can do this.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House adjourn. Sine die.
The Majority Leader has moved that this House stand adjourned, sine die. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. All those opposed will say no. This House is adjourned, sine die.